Hello again, it's Andrea here from Bitten by the Bug. Today I'm not going to do any stitching, but I am going to show you different ways of transferring your patterns to your fabric. One of the favourite ways that I have of transferring is using Japanese choco or tracing paper. It comes in a lovely red envelope like this, and I have been using it for nearly 20 years. It is my favourite form of transferring. It's reliable and it's easy to use. But there are some little tricks and tips I can give you to give it a more of a successful application. And of course, at the moment, because so many people are doing all sorts of stitching and needing to transfer designs to fabric, of course, there are all different ways of doing it. One of the most usual way there at the moment is to draw a grid with charcoal or transferring pencils and a ruler. Little rulers like this or like this, which are all marked for you to give you perfect squares. So I use a fabric marking pencil, and they come in different colours. You can get yellow ones, white ones, pink and blue ended ones. And again, these are made or based on charcoal. And so they wash off, they can dust off, and they're very versatile. They're very good for lots of different embroidery applications. I've been using these a long time too, and they're great when you might need to touch up a very intricate pattern. Just use a pencil sharpener and have them fairly pointed, and they are great to use. Okay, so this is what I did with this grid pattern, which is then I will use for Hitamasashi style Sashiko stitching. So that was actually traced out a little while ago, and the marking is still there, so I am still able to use it to do my stitching. Okay, so what else do I use? I use all different types of shapes to mark my fabric, but the most valuable thing to have with your choco paper is a stylus. So a stylus looks like this or this. There are several different types. This one, my ultimate favourite one is this one, but they all have one thing in common. They have a ball stylus or ball marking head. In this case, this is a pen type one, which has no ink in it. Okay, this one's not my favourite one because it can tear your pattern. These are the ones I use on a daily basis when I'm marking patterns. These are any one of these three. Okay, I like the end, which is bigger. It gives me a bigger line, and again, won't tear my paper. So I'm of the thought pattern that you should be able to transfer any patterns you like to any type of fabric, and give it a try as far as stitching is concerned. So I trace a lot of my patterns myself, or I change patterns. So these are some of my patterns that are traditional ones that are simplified patterns. And you can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things to a pattern to change it and make it your own. So this is one example. This pattern here, this flower medallion or flower pattern here, can be changed. It starts this way, and then you can separate the sections of the flower and give yourself a very interesting form of or result with your stitching. And this is done on very traditional vintage indigo blue fabric, so it's quite soft and delicate. So I like to be able to stitch on anything I like, and this is the other reason why I use choco paper. So choco paper comes in this size, and it comes in 5 different colours. So we'll open it up and have a look at it. And it comes in anything, all of these colours will be suitable for most things to transfer. So I haven't had any problem with any colour transferring. So we've got blue, we've got pink, we have white, green and yellow. Now you can use choco paper until it absolutely disintegrates. So this packet of choco paper should almost last you indefinitely. I have pieces that I have had for 15 odd years and I still get them out. They're usually all stuck together to make a really big piece, and then I can do big pieces of work. So you can see this one here is not a new piece and it's been used quite a lot of times. But I'm going to use it today to show you that you can use it indefinitely. So what's very important with choco paper is you're layering up to do your transferring. So I've always done it this way. We layer our choco paper on a good hard surface with the coloured side up, so you can see it, as you can see here now, and you stick it down with masking tape. It's very, very important that the pattern does not move. Then you place your fabric on top. In this case, I'm just using a small piece of blue fabric, and you place that on top of your choco paper, and you also stick that down. Okay, everything needs to be very surely taped so you don't get movement when you do your transferring. Okay, now if you didn't have a pattern, there's lots of other ways and patterns which you can make yourself that don't need a pattern. You can just do lines, and quite often I do. If I don't have anything in mind, but I need some stitching to add to something I'm doing, I might just use lines to do that. And you could say you could use your chalk pencil, and yes you could, but I still prefer to do it this way, and I will get nice clean lines doing it this way. Now, one thing to be aware of, because you're transferring your pattern on the underside of your fabric, you have to be aware of directional patterns, whether a pattern will point left or right. It will reverse it, and you then, if that is an issue, so it wouldn't be an issue with any of these because they're totally symmetrical, but if you have a pattern, say it's like this, which is asymmetrical, and you might want that shape on the other side, turn it upside down and print the pattern upside down. Sometimes you have to go over that pattern to make it more easily seen. But most of the time, when you have your patterns printed, you can see the pattern through it. You can with mine. So I'm able to turn them upside down and use them any direction that I like. So if I was just going to do lines, I would just do this. Crease it, and you can actually see the line. It indents into the fabric. And then I might cross and then do another one. There's so much out there that helps you transfer and make simple patterns. This is great as a beginner's application of looking at stitching and getting your stitching more regular or even. If that's bothering you, I would say that you've got to start somewhere, so it doesn't matter. Now, if I want to have a look at what I've done, I peel off the bottom 2 bits of masking tape and lift up my pattern, and then we can see that the pattern has transferred very easily onto my fabric. Okay, Now, if I wanted to put maybe sort of another shape onto that as well, a circular pattern, there are lots of things out there that help you do that, and this is one of the most useful. These are round templates, they're called donuts, donut shape, and you can actually just use this part of the donut shape, the tape, and place circles over those lines like so. Like that. And then you can actually overlap your circles. Now, if you wanted to do something really, really random and very, for want of a better word, artistic, the artistic side of this, then doing this type of thing, totally random, gives you very individual work. So I aim and promote and encourage my students to be as original as you can. Okay, now I've traced off 3 circles inside that, and now I'll lift up, and you can see what I have here now. Okay, is 3 circles going through my chopsticks or my long lines. So that can be stitched two-tone. You could have very, very bright red in the circles and cream, but the sky's the limit. You're only limited by your imagination, but that's how easy it is to trace a pattern. If I'm doing a pattern that is very linear, then, as in this one, I will place my fabric down as usual and do the whole thing with a ruler and my stylus. Now, just because the lines have been transferred does not mean to say you have to sew every line. Choco paper is washable, so after you finish doing your work, you can wash your fabric, and any lines you haven't stitched, you can wash them away. I then tend to, after it's washed, I wash it very gently with hand liquid soap and lay it on a towel upside down, and so it blots out most of the water, and then iron it dry after about an hour, and you'll have perfect a finished stitching that you can put into whatever you want to do. Now, if you are doing patterns that are circular or shaped, as in this one, you can use the circle template, as in this one here. Okay, the circle templates, these donut templates, come in many sizes, so you'll be able to match the size up to the pattern that you've chosen. They come in little sets like this, and they all sit inside each other, and you can just make patterns that are like this at any size you like without even a paper template. So this one especially, you can lay this on, and you can see you can just replicate that pattern. Okay, I like to, as people know my work, do all sorts of interesting things to my patterns. So you'll look, well, I'll show you this one. Okay, this was done in the same process with the choco paper, and this is the wave, a type of waving pattern, and I've done my stitching or my transfer very irregular and very uneven, and it was purposely done. It then looks more natural. It's two-tone coloured, so a light blue and a cream on that one. Okay, so that's ready to be used. I also do things like this one, which will be in my new pattern set, Camellias. Again, that was transferred using choco paper, and that's quite fine thread in that one to give you detail, so the stitches are smaller. And again, that was an easy transfer, lots of curves, but obviously you can't use rulers and templates for this one. This is fully free form transferring, so using your stylus and just free form transferring those lines to the fabric. Now, also being aware that this is a directional pattern. So if I wanted to make a pair of this, the pattern would have to be reversed, turned upside down, so you end up with a left and a right, unless of course you don't mind it and they're all sitting the same direction. But it's one of those things that you only ever do that mistake once, and you can just wash off your transfer and just iron your fabric and start again. But once you've and it's almost like you need to do that to go, oh yeah, there's a left and a right to this pattern. As I said before, I've been transferring this way for about 20 years, and what I can say is that one of the most mistakes people make transferring is they don't press hard enough on their patterns. And I think they may be worried that they might tear the paper. And using a ball stylus, you don't tend to have that worry. After a while, the pattern gets pretty bad. It gets pretty battered about. So I tend to have many photocopies of one pattern and use them up until they completely start getting really quite dented, and then throw them away and then start on another one. What does happen when you transfer, you will get a dent on your pattern, and the dent on your pattern tells you where you've transferred, because a lot of people ask me, I don't know where the transfer is, so I'll demonstrate that. You don't know where your transfer is without lifting it up, but in essence you do. I don't use a biro to do this because the biro will ruin your pattern, and I want to get some use out of my pattern. So I'll just stick this one down and I'll just lay this on. Now I like to do things like angles. I'm not really a straight on type person. I like a bit of interest to my stitching. So this is the perfect way that you can do that. So with my stylus, I'll now start transferring these lines. Now I can feel where I've been, but if you're not sure whether you've done it or not, then the best thing to do is go over it a second time, and then you'll know for sure that you have transferred. So I can feel that one, feel that one, feel that one, and then I come down and do this one. I say to people, press harder than you think you need to press, and then you're pretty guaranteed that it'll come out on your fabric. So it comes down and down and down, and you can feel the edge of the fabric so you don't go any further. And you can obviously stop wherever you want to stop too. So we come up, and then I fill in this area. And this is a beautiful pattern. I really like this one. It's a very traditional pattern, and it almost looks three-dimensional when you stitch it. That's what's so nice about this one. So I can feel that, Now, as I mentioned before, I quite often don't do complete areas of pattern. I have empty areas or void areas, and I like the look of that. But because I encourage people's individuality, I encourage them also to explore all the different looks you can get from transferring your pattern. So I'll just do a little bit more. Now be aware that when you take this pattern off your fabric, it's pretty impossible to get it back on exactly where it needs to be. So it's stuck down at the moment. So you've got to be, once you take it off, you've got to be sure that that's the final amount of pattern that you want on to your fabric when you're doing your transferring in this way. So I'm just feeling around, and this one here, and so fairly even pressure with your stylus. These tools are also used for making dots. They use them in clay work, and they use them in fabric painting type of thing to make perfect dots, eyes, things like that on dolls. And so a very versatile tool. You may even have one and you don't even know what you bought it for, but have a look first. Okay, so I've done like a band through here. Now, as I mentioned before, if you're not sure where you've been, go over it, okay, a second time. It doesn't tear the paper. That's what's so good about the stylus. It doesn't tear the paper until you've used your pattern at least, I'd say half a dozen times. And then it probably would start to get a bit worn. Okay, so I'll just do here. And now we'll just take it and we'll have a look what I have done. So pattern off first, like so. Move that aside. And you can even see the shadow of the actual transfer through the fabric. Through there, because I press fairly hard when I do this, so you can usually see what I've done. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is another pattern, so I can put that in my pattern pieces, fabric, ready to be stitched. Now there's nothing to stop you adding a different pattern over on this side here. As I said, I encourage everyone to use their creativity and their imagination to make all different patterns that work for you, depending on what you're using them for. So this is another example of the circular pattern using the circle templates, these ones here, and the small ones and big ones overlapping, and then creating a different image with a different colour and a different size over here. So exactly the same principle, except this one's using templates. And if you think about it, you can use all different shape templates. You could use squares, you could use rectangles, you could use triangles and all sorts of things, hexagons. So many different things are out there that you could still use doing this transfer method with choco paper or using your chalk pencil. Either or works. You end up having a preference for one or the other that you use mostly, and with me it's using choco paper. Okay, so what else have I got to show you today? I sometimes will transfer a full pattern, and then as I think I've mentioned before, I don't always transfer it all, stitch all of it. I might leave areas off or make it very irregular, as in this piece. And you can see by the bottom here, this area here, the pattern is stopped. So I like to have it a little bit more adventurous looking. Okay, it's just how I approach my stitching. This is another way of approaching it. This is a long piece. And again, done with the circle templates, done with these little things, which come in huge amounts of variation of size. And just in this case, just tracing around with it with the choco pencil, the transfer pencil, and you get an amazing effect of just cross swirling sort of lines. And this is a good practice piece. I might add more lines to it, or I might decide this is all I want to do, and then that gets sewn into a project. But it's a very good practice piece to try out new colours of Sashiko thread, or just to get practice in your Sashiko stitching. Okay, so I hope that helps you on your journey of transferring. If you've got any questions or queries, don't forget to, you can always drop me a line at bittenbythebug@gmail.com, or visit my website, Bitten by the Bug. And choco paper is always available on my website, and it's a pack of 5 colours, as I mentioned earlier, and it is very economical as well because you can use it until it falls apart. I will be expanding my range into these templates as well, because they are so useful for so many different things. So keep a lookout, go have a look at Bitten by the Bug, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.